everyone, Miss Meek here. Today we're going to be talking about comparing integers. Integers are positive and negative whole numbers, and we can compare them. Just like how I can compare two positive amounts, I can also compare two negative amounts, or even a positive and negative amount, I can compare them to each other. We can also compare everything to zero as well, and so that's what we're going to be talking about in this lesson. Now, just as a reminder, we have two types of symbols that we're going to be using today. The first type is less than. Less than means that our number to the left is going to be smaller than our number to the right. Our other symbol is greater than. Greater than means that our number to the left is going to be bigger or larger than the number to the right. So again, if I want to compare the numbers 15 and 25, I can write that statement two different ways depending on where I place my numbers. If I want to use the less than symbol, I would write 15 is less than 25. But if I would like to use the greater than symbol, I would write 25 on the left because 25 is bigger in value than 15. So I can write that statement two different ways depending on which symbol I'd like to use. So let's go ahead and jump in. When comparing integers, it's really helpful to have a number line available. So I've drawn one here at the top of the page. Let's take a look at our different numbers we're comparing. Number 1, we are comparing a negative 5, which is over here in our negatives, to a positive 4. Now, something that we have to realize is that when we compare a negative to a positive, one always is going to have bigger value than the other, and that is going to be the positive. A positive number has a larger value than a negative number. Think about it. If you had the option of having $4 in your pocket or having to give your little brother $5, which would you choose? I personally would choose to have the $4 in my pocket. That's because it is the better option because it has more value to me. More value for me to have $4 than me to having to owe my brother $5. So again, positive numbers have a bigger value than negative numbers. So if you ever have to compare a negative to a positive, the positive is always going to be larger. And so on number 1, our symbol is going to be less than because negative 5 is less than a positive 4. All right, let's do a little bit of review here on number 2. We want to compare 6, a positive 6, to a positive 1. Well, positive 6 is over here to the right of 0 on our number line, and positive 1 is also to the right of 0 on our number line. But remember, in our positives, that as a number gets further away from 0 going to the right, our numbers have a bigger value. And so that means that 6 is going to be greater than 1 because 6 is going to have bigger value than 1 because 1 is so close to 0. Now, let's compare two negatives. All right? Kind of a similar rules apply. On our number line, we have a negative 2, which is 2 spaces from 0 to the left, and we have a negative 5, which is 5 spaces away from 0 to the left. Now, in the negatives side of the number line, remember that as I get further away from 0, my numbers actually decrease in value. It gets smaller in value. It's not something that's kind of weird for us to realize because when we look at a 5 and a 2, we're like, of course 5 is bigger, but not when we talk about negatives. When we talk about negatives, negative 5 is further away from 0 than negative 2. That means that it has a little bit less value than negative 2 does because negative 2 is so close to 0. And so when we compare negative 2 to negative 5, negative 2 is greater than negative 5. So you kind of have to change your way of thinking a little bit when we talk about comparing negatives. Our last example here is negative 4 being compared to 0. So I'm going to mark those on our number line. Here's 0, and here is negative 4. Again, once I'm comparing negatives to 0 or a positive number, those numbers are always going to be bigger. They're going to have more value. 0 has more value than negative 4. Again, think about what you would rather have. Would you rather owe someone $4, so have to come up with $4 to give them, or would you rather just have $0 but then no debt? I would rather have $0 and no debt instead of having to owe someone $4. 0 is the better option, and that means that's because it has a little bit more value to me. I don't owe anyone money. I don't have any money, but I don't owe anyone money either. And so 0 is going to be greater than -4. So when I go to fill out number 4 here on my screen, -4 is going to be less than 0. And that is because -4 has less value than 0. 0 is actually bigger than -4. Something else that we can do is compare a list of numbers. So here I have a list of numbers that we need to put in order from least to greatest. Let's go ahead and mark these numbers on the number line. All right, I have 3, I have a -4, I have a 0, I have a -1, a +1, and a -2. Now, something when I'm labeling least to greatest that I should notice about my number line is that all of my least numbers are going to be to the left because that's where our negatives live, and all of my greater numbers are going to be to the right. Because that's where all my positive numbers live. So what's really cool about putting our numbers on a number line is it actually gives us the answer. It orders them for us. All I have to do is look left to right, and my numbers are already put in order for me. So my smallest number that I'm going to have here in this list is going to be my smallest negative with the least amount of value. That is -4. This first number here in my list on the number lines. Continuing to look across from left to right on my number line, the next negative is going to be -2. And then -1. -1 is my negative with the biggest amount of values. So out of my 3 negatives there, -1 is the biggest for value. Then I have 0. And now I'm ordering my positives. So I have a +1, and then 3 is actually going to be my greatest number. It has the most value out of the whole list of all of my numbers. So my final answer would be -4, -2, -1, 0, 1, and then 3. Again, if I put my numbers on a number line, I can just look left to right. And they're already put in order from least to greatest. Let's do one more like this. This time, I want to order these numbers from greatest to least. So let's go ahead and mark them on my number line. I have a -5, a +3, a -1, a +6, and then a -3. So I've marked my 5 numbers on the number line. Again, on my number line, the least amount of numbers, the least numbers with the least amount of value is going to be all the way to the left over in where my negatives are, to the left of 0. And my greatest numbers are going to be all the way to the right of 0. Now I'm going greatest to least. So what I want to do is I want to start over here at the right and look left. If I start from the right and look left, my numbers are already ordered for me on my number line. My greatest number in my list is a +6. Then as I travel further on down into this number line, I get a +3. Then I cross over into the negatives where I have my first negative, -1. It is the negative with the biggest value out of all the negatives in my list. The next negative as I travel on down the list is going to be -3. And then, of course, my smallest number, my least number here is going to be that -5. So my final answer is 6, +3, -1, -3, and then -5. I hope this video has helped explain how to compare and order integers. If you can't remember what an integer is or how they work with a number line, I encourage you to check out my integer and opposites video on my YouTube channel. All right. I hope this has helped you, and I will be talking to you later. Bye!